Number 1. Michael's brother. This is the worst thing to ever happen to me in my life. It happened when I was about 12 years old. We lived in a military housing area, and I was going to go out and play with my friends. However, the friends I wanted to spend time with were not around that day, so I really didn't know what to do. I remembered, though, that my friend Michael was supposed to be working on a school project at home. I thought I would go over and see what he was up to. I mean, even working on schoolwork was better than doing nothing at all. I got up to his house and knocked. Usually, Michael was the one who answered the door. However, this time, it was his older brother who did. I never liked him at all. He was 18, still living at home, and was just really dark and weird. The less time I would be around him would be the happier I'll be. I asked if Michael was there, and he told me yes. He invited me in. He said Michael was upstairs, working, but his parents didn't want any guests to be upstairs. He would tell Michael I was here, and send him down to the basement. At that point, the older brother opened the basement door and turned the light on. He told me to go down and wait. I was hesitant, but I'd been in the basement before. It was set up like a family room. I went down and waited for a while. When the door finally opened, and someone came down the stairs, I realized it wasn't Michael. It was his brother again. I asked him where Michael was, but he wouldn't answer me. Instead, he walked past me and over to the laundry room, which was to the far side of the basement. I heard him doing some things before he came back out. When the brother came out, I was shocked to see him holding a sharp pair of hedge clippers. I once cut a snake in half with these, he told me, and I shivered. It was weird, watching the two halves wiggle while the snake died. He laughed, but did not move out of the doorway. I asked where Michael was, and when he just stood there silently, I called out for Michael. The smile on his brother's face just grew, and I assumed Michael was not at home. I've cut a few other things in half too, the brother told me. Some of the bigger ones were harder to do. I had to hack at them over and over again for a long time with the clippers. That was it for me. I cannot tell you for certain, but as I was standing there, I thought this freak was going to try and cut me in half. His face was weird, unpleasant, and just freaky. I ran immediately up the stairs and out of the house, basically crying as I did. He didn't follow me. I told Michael about what happened, and he shrugged it off as his older brother was just weird. A few years later, I heard he went to jail for attacking some woman with hedge clippers. She didn't die, but she did get really messed up.
I woke up about 3:30 a.m. I was wondering what that sound was that had awakened my slumber. I laid there waiting, still drowsy. I slowly grabbed my glass of water on my nightstand and took a sip. Wait, there it is again. What's it saying? With a nervous voice, I called out,
"Hey! Who's there? Why are you in my house?"
I attempted to grasp what had been taking place, but that was shortly interrupted when I heard the whispering again. My adrenaline started pumping. I jumped out of bed, but something's different. It seems the whispering is accompanied by a strange, thumping noise. What the hell? I thought to myself. I gave myself a quick pinch to make sure I was positively awake. I started taking slow steps to my bedroom door, but I quickly stopped and stepped back as my doorknob started jiggling. Something, or someone, is on the other side of my door trying to make entrance. I jolted out of my frozen state and quickly locked the door, as I was in absolute terror. I stepped back and started thinking about what to do next. I couldn't call for help, and here's why. I lived alone. I couldn't use my phone, due to my friend dropping it and shattering the whole damn thing. I was stuck. And whatever awaits me beyond that door is waiting for my arrival. I walked over to my window. I contemplated on jumping out, but wasn't sure the outcome, considering my bedroom is located on the second floor of my 3-story house. If I didn't live in the middle of nowhere, I would have attempted screaming out my window for help, but seeing how my closest neighbor lives about a half-mile down Stonesbrook Ave, it's unlikely they'd hear me. If anything, the animals would scatter in the nearby forest. I gathered up enough courage, and I've decided that I'm gonna open my bedroom door. After all, I hadn't heard any sign of whatever was out there in a few minutes, so why not, right? I hoped. I slowly made my way towards the door and put my ear up to it and listened carefully. Nothing. I heard nothing. I approached the doorknob, unlocked it, and slowly turned the knob. I'm not going to lie, I am terrified. I jumped a little when the door creaked. I peeked out into the hallway. I couldn't see anything. I went to flip the light switch, but nothing happened. That's when I heard it. The voice. It said,
"Help me. Help me."
I turned to look down the dark hallway, and my blood ran cold once I noticed a figure at the end of the hall. It was a tall, pale woman in a gown. Her body looked unnatural, like if her back had been broken. And I couldn't believe my eyes when I had noticed she was floating in midair. She started moving towards me at a fast pace, screaming,
"Help me. Help me."
To the least, it was very unsettling. I slammed the door shut so fast, I feared it coming off its hinges. I locked it, and I ran towards my window, seeing how that's my only way out of this goddamn house. As I opened my window and about to jump out, I stopped. Out by the forest line, I could see her. She stared at me with an expressionless gaze. We stared at each other for what felt like hours. Just then, she dropped on all fours and skidded abnormally fast into the dark forest. Continuing to stare out my window, I realized I wasn't alone. I felt heavy breathing against the back of my neck. I knew she was behind me. That pale woman. But how? At this moment, I realized there's nothing more I could do. I slowly turned around.
"Help me. Help me."
Number 3. Creepy Texas House. Let me start with some backstory on my creepy story. About 5 years ago, my husband and I purchased a nice 2-story home in our small, rural Texas town that had mostly sat vacant for as long as I could remember. It is highway frontage, but sits very far off the highway on a long driveway. Our closest neighbors on either side are 100 yards or more away from our home. When we purchased the home and began to move in, someone posted it on a community Facebook page asking who was moving into the yellow 2-story home, because whoever it was should know its history. My sister alerted me to this. She checked into the post, and it said that everyone who lived here had gotten a divorce. The post said that weird and creepy things happen here so much that a priest was called out to bless the house. The post did seem to ring true, as the previous owners divorced and moved to separate states, and came off the price by $30,000. We didn't care, we loved the house. I should also mention that the house is not that old. It's maybe only 18 years old. Later, we started having strange experiences. I won't say that they are paranormal experiences, because some things could have been blamed on weird crackheads in the area. I've noticed things, like the sound of someone sitting down on my bed. You know that sound a mattress makes when you sit down on it? Once I woke up in bed, next to my husband, and didn't want to wake him, so I carefully crept out of bed and into the living room, only to find him asleep on the couch. When I went back into my room to see who was in my bed, it was empty, even though I had clearly seen someone under the covers. One time after work during the daytime, I went outside to the garage, which is very large, 2-story, and not attached to our home, only to find my young son standing in the garage, staring up at the ceiling of the garage towards our game room that is above the garage. I asked what he was doing, and he said that he'd been calling out to whoever is up there, but they won't answer me. I quickly told him to get into the house. My husband investigated when he got home from work and found no one. One night, our 2 kids were gone for the night, so we were having a movie night in our living room. All the lights were off, only the TV was on. Suddenly, there was a knock-knock at the door. I immediately grabbed my husband's arm and whispered, "Get the gun," as anyone who knew us only used our back door, never our front door. It was too much trouble to get a deer rifle and load it, so he grabbed the spotlight, and I grabbed the taser, and we decided to split up and circle our home. We met each other and decided that it was nothing, as neither of us had seen anything. We went back in and started watching our movie when headlights appeared in our back door. It was our neighbor, who lived up on the highway, and he told us that he had been sitting on his couch with his wife, watching a movie, when someone tapped on his door. When he opened the door, no one was there, but he did see us, circling our home with a spotlight. The next night, we sat alone, watching a movie, but this time, we had an infrared baby monitor hidden on the front porch. We waited late into the night, but never heard another knock. We never solved the door knocking mystery. Once my husband came home from work, and while he was in the shower, he heard someone yell, "Yoo-hoo!" Thinking that it was me, he answered. But when I didn't answer back, he went through the house and knew that I was not home. He was home alone. He apologized to me that day for making fun of me for hearing and seeing things in our home. One night, when he was gone to a work meeting, a rare winter storm blew in. There were extreme temperature dips and extreme high winds. And this night, I was sitting at the computer in our living room when I heard a knock-knock at our door, at our back French doors. I froze with fear. I asked, "Who's there?" No answer. Then a quieter knock-knock, almost question-like. Again I asked, "Who's there?" No answer. Now horrified, I got our handgun and aimed it at our back door, yelling that I have a gun, all the while Googling how to shoot a gun. Moments later, my husband, whom I had been texting and attempting to call during this, opened the back door and was shocked to see me pointing a gun at the door. His phone had been on silent during his work meeting, and when he arrived home, he said that high winds had picked up our above-ground pool and threw it against our house, and that he had to remove it before he could come into the house. It didn't make sense. Even high winds couldn't make a distinct knock-knock. Forward to later, my teen daughter and her best friend were home alone, while we were down the road watching a football game with family. They had to go to walk the dog, and there was a person walking down the highway in the dark at night. I know this seems normal to a lot of people, but out here in rural Texas, it is not normal. My daughter's friend thought it would be funny to flash the porch light on and off to the walking person. The walking person shone the flashlight toward our house, and then kept moving. Later, there was a knock at our front door. My daughter and her friend were terrified, but her dumb friend opened the door. There was no one there. They were still creeped out, so they called me, and I came home and investigated our property and saw nothing. So I told them to just stay inside with the doors shut and locked. 3 days after the creepy walker, my husband was out of town on business, and I was home with our kids. I was in bed watching TV downstairs, while my children were in their rooms upstairs. I was startled by an unusual sound that made me sit up in bed and freeze. Seconds later, my daughter came downstairs with her dog. I blew off my creepy feeling as just hearing her and the dog coming down the stairs. I should mention her dog is a Chihuahua Pekingese mix and is the biggest chicken in the world. She was on our front porch, letting her dog go to the bathroom on his extension leash for seconds when she screamed, ran in and slammed the door. I, thinking that she saw that creepy flashlight night walker again, asked her what happened. She was pasty white, shaking and crying. She said that she was on the porch with her dog out in the yard on his extension when she heard someone whistle a few yards away from our porch in the dark. She said it sounded like somebody whistling for her dog. This happened in a matter of seconds, and after she told me this, we realized that the dog was still outside, attached to the extension leash. We opened the door and pulled the poor small dog back in by his leash line. I turned on every outside light, but could not see anyone. She said that her dog kept trying to go underneath our house, like maybe someone was under there. We didn't sleep much that night, and I was up every hour, counting the hours until daylight, when we would be safe and could go to work and school. The next day, when I was walking the dog, he kept sniffing around and going under the house, as if he smelled something unusual. There's no more to the story than that, and nothing happened afterward. We have all but started to ignore the weird sounds we hear. It's hard to ignore, though, when your pets also hear and react to the noises. One day, we may have the guts to throw open the door when we hear a knock and catch a prankster, or a crackhead, or some weirdo getting kicks off scaring people. But until then, I think I'll invest in some outdoor security cameras and lights to make me feel safer. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. First, I'd like to thank the Grimtale Bros for narrating a story with me here. I'd like to thank everyone who submitted these stories. I know it may seem weird that in my last video, I promised an increase in videos due to my new computer. So it must seem weird that this video has come out so much later than that one. I'm just letting you know, I've been collecting stories, editing them, and getting everything ready to really go through the end of this month with a bang. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, you can use the subscribe button below and the bell below. Or wait for the icon of Ichigo the cat that will appear at the end of this video. Leave me a comment and consider sharing the video with someone you think might enjoy it. If you have a story you'd like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please send it to the address included in the description. Remember, I tend to only narrate original stories that do not appear on other channels. And please, don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.